no, it's the end of the world. Oh, everything's fine. We're all right. Phew. Hi, I'm Shannon Solange, and this is the Highly Sensitive Person Safe Space, where I share experience-based HSP triumphs and tribulations. So that little doomsday scenario is kind of what it feels like in the highly sensitive person's brain when we're worried about things going horribly wrong, which is like all the time. That's why us HSPs often plan far ahead so that we can be prepared for any situation. We get so up in our heads about potential future outcomes that we have to be careful not to get caught in a doomsday cycle where we think that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Because it's no fun to have so much anxiety about everything. Research shows that indeed HSPs are more likely to experience anxiety, and its symptoms are felt more deeply too. Which makes you wonder, is planning for every scenario simply a way to cope with anxiety and gain control over it? Let's dissect this HSP anxiety to get a better understanding of where it's coming from and how we can tame it. Here are some examples of doomsday scenarios. A loved one steps into their car to go to work and we immediately worry about their safety because our brain never lets us forget how dangerous cars can be. And we can already picture a gruesome image of a terrible, life-threatening accident. You get an exciting new job, but you can already hear the voice of criticism and rejection because you're a perfectionist and you're convinced that you're just not perfect enough for the job. It's that all too familiar fear of failure that we all suffer from at one point or another. Your teenage kid is enjoying a night out with friends and you want them to have fun, but you'd also wish they would check in with you every 5 minutes because it's such a big bad world out there with danger lurking in every corner. And that's all you can think about until they return home safely. By that time, you've already pictured them murdered in a ditch, run over by a car, gotten into legal trouble, or OD'd on drugs, even though you know they'd never touch the stuff. Let me know your worst doomsday scenario in the comments. Anxiety is a fear-based survival instinct that helps us to kick in our fight, freeze, or flight response for survival purposes. It makes sense to be alert in a real danger situation, like when we fall into a swamp with alligators. But when it's just a job interview, it's not necessarily life-threatening, because then, instead of being a life-saving mechanism, it just drains our precious energy unnecessarily. The physical symptoms of anxiety are things like an increased heart rate, rapid breathing, or even breath holding, sweating, and an inability to think clearly. So it's not hard to picture why it has such a draining effect on us. And if we let it, our anxiety can cause us to stagnate in life, preventing us from growth in certain areas, or missing out on wonderful opportunities because we're too afraid to step outside of our comfort zone. So what can we do? The first step in tackling the HSP worry bug is knowing what triggers it. Here are a couple of common HSP anxiety-inducing scenarios. Making decisions, especially under pressure. People watching as you perform a task, like at work when a supervisor is hunched over you. Unexpected changes. Having too much on your to-do list. Crowded places. Watching or reading the news. Travel. And many more. Did I leave out an important one? Let me know in the comments. Once you've identified your triggers, you can begin to get a handle on them. If you're the type to worry about everything that can go wrong, then planning ahead for the worst case scenario might not actually be such a bad thing. I've asked you guys about this, and the response was that planning for the unexpected has often been a lifesaver. If it's working for you, why change it? But if you feel like you're overdoing it with the preparations, like if you're going on a camping trip and you've literally packed 10 times your own body weight, yeah, it's gonna be a heavy load and you might want to shed a few pounds. Not off of your body, but off of your backpack. It also plays an important role to distinguish what's in your hands and what isn't. You cannot control every outcome, and simply accepting that can eventually give you some peace. But of course, it's not easy. And as a bonus, when you stop being the caregiver in every scenario, you give others a chance to step up as well. At first, people might have to get used to you being less hands-on, but in time, you will notice that it can actually feel quite freeing to not be such a control freak about every little thing. Sometimes avoiding your triggers can be quite simple, like preventing yourself from getting too hungry or too sleepy. By always packing a snack with you and making sure that you get that afternoon nap if you really need it. Regular exercise is vital too. Even short 20-minute walks a couple of times a week will do. Going for a run for me works instantly when I'm feeling too worked up. Fear of failure. This is a tricky one and requires commitment to healing our inner child. Since fear of failure often stems from our childhood and feeling like we're never quite good enough. You could do this with the guidance of a therapist, or you could do it alone. One thing that can be helpful is to change the narrative. Play out in your mind how great things would be if they actually worked out alright, instead of how bad they would be if they didn't. And maybe have a plan B ready. Is it really so bad if plan A fails? Usually you will be okay no matter the outcome, even if unfavorable. You will survive and float on. But if you have your plan B ready in case plan A fails, it can give you some comfort and help to keep your worries at bay. To alleviate the pressure to perform a task, let those around you know about your sensitivity and ask for some consideration. This could be things like having more private space at work. There is no need to hide your personal needs or feel ashamed that you don't perform as well under pressure. Feel free to watch my video about shame after this one to discover ways of letting go of your shame about being sensitive. Some alternative advice that I found online is to practice mindfulness meditation and group therapy. As someone who has greatly benefited from the group format in AA, I can attest to the power of relating to others on a shared struggle. And mindfulness is certainly a tool I reach for often. Just take traffic anxiety as an example, like the slowpoke that jumps in front of you when you're in a hurry. I'll remind myself that the universe probably wanted me to arrive late for some reason I might never find out, but I might as well enjoy the extra couple of songs that I get to listen to now, or the podcast that I finally get to finish listening to. I've also found that focusing outward can be helpful. HSPs are often hyper-aware of their inner well-being, so balancing self-care and self-awareness with giving and being caring to others can help to alleviate some of that inward focus that can trigger our anxiety when we get too caught up in our own minds. Journaling can be a great tool for processing emotions, so why not anxiety? It can aid with awareness by helping you to recognize your triggers and give you a deeper understanding of where they might be coming from and how you might be able to minimize their impact. And lastly, in the worst case scenario, eject yourself from the stress-inducing situation. Oh, and eating more magnesium apparently can also lower anxiety. I hope you gained something from this video. If anything, just to know that you're not alone. And there's nothing wrong with being highly sensitive or dealing with extreme worry and anxiety. It's all about finding the tools to minimize their impact in your life. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe to support my journey and join the HSP tribe, where we can exchange insights and tips on how to thrive as easily frazzled souls in this overstimulated world. Tot de volgende keer. Till the next one. I actually just finished filming an interview with a fellow HSP here in Curacao, so make sure you look out for that one. Help with lowering triumphs. I give up.